Welcome to the Cats Pod, special edition of the Cats Pod. Today we have a fellow University of Montana Western Dog, a Washington Husky, coach at Navarro College, coach at Beaverhead County High School, coach at University of Arkansas, coach at Texas Baptist University, and now one of the coaches from Montana State University. This is Marcus Monaco.
Boys, appreciate it. Man, that doesn't seem like it's that long of a list. I guess if you break it all out, I haven't been doing it very long, but I've been at a couple spots, that's for sure.
You've been everywhere, man. You've been all over the country.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
which,
is the
if you had
first.
to pick an area, which one did you like the most? You like being back home, or did you kind of like that Texas or Arkansas, or is there anywhere specifically?
I think there, like, the thing that was weird, and you guys know this too, coming from what, like, smaller Montana is, you just want to be able to go experience some stuff. So, like, at the time, I really enjoyed what those travels looked like. Like, I went from Western to being integrated into the University of Washington when I started my master's. And I go from a campus of 12 to 1,300 kids to a campus that, when it's having a booming day, like UW has 90 to 100,000 people on its campus. So, like, I was excited to experience what the world kind of had for me. So, um, I love doing all of that stuff. Like, being able to be a part of the SEC was awesome. So I think
Oh
that would
yeah.
be my favorite, not Montana spot. But I think the goal was always to be able to make it back to Bozeman and hopefully figure out a way to get involved with the PawdCats. And luckily enough, Coach Vegan allowed me to do that last spring, and a part of almost 2 seasons now. And I think this is where I want to be. Like, being able to have friends and family be stuff like that. This is the ideal spot. But I mean, I got to play in some cool stuff when I was at Arkansas. Like, we played LSU when Joe Burrow was the quarterback there, the number one team in the nation. There's got 101 or 103,000 people there. Death Valley at
That would
night.
be
Like,
insane.
it was cool to be like, you get to those sidelines and you're just like, you see what that moment is. Like, I'm a small town kid from the middle of nowhere, Montana, and what am I doing on the sideline of a SEC game, shaking Joe Burrow's hand at the end of it? Like, it's just kind of takes you back, but it's cool, awesome what these opportunities can turn into.
That's awesome. I can't even imagine how loud it would be down at any one of those SC. It doesn't matter which one, any one of them. I can't
Yeah,
imagine how loud that be.
here's how goofy I was trying to experience. Obviously, Chad Morris got let go, and he was the coach that kind of brought me on at Arkansas, and he got let go before the LSU game, and so how everything kind of transpired. Before that, I did not have one of the countable headsets on the sideline, but then after he was gone, and all that post head coach like shuffling goes around, I ended up being able to have a headset. But that was the first game I got a headset was at LSU, and I remember, like, I'm watching Clyde Edwards-Helaire score like 25-yard touchdown, and places going nuts, and I'm like, I pop that headset off. I'm like, I kind of want to hear what this sounds like, because it's like, I don't know what this is going to look like for me to be able to be in an opportunity like this again. So I might as well enjoy the environment, and that's what college football does. It allows you to be a part of cool things like that. Now, I wish we were on the right side of that game. I think we got beat 59-21 or something. Like, it was ugly, but um, it's really cool to be able to say I got to do some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, considering that LSU team is considered maybe the second greatest college football team of all time,
Yeah,
I can't even imagine.
it was wild to be a part of it. The funny thing about that, so Shaq was there for that game for whatever reason. I'm sure he goes to multiple of them, but for whatever reason, we were hanging around in the first quarter and really the first half, because I think it was either 14 or 21-7, and they took a media timeout. And we're like, we're kind of in the mix of this. Like, we were moving the ball and we got some steps and it was going good. Well, they bring Shaq out to get acknowledged, like, to acknowledge Shaq as just a fan alumni. Well, man, does that place go bananas? And I think the next 6 minutes of game time, they scored 21 unanswered points, and then we're like, okay, well, thanks, Shaq. You woke them up, and then it was a boat race from then on out. But was cool. Shaq is a way bigger human than you ever give him credit to be. Like,
You're like, Shaq, could you head back to the locker room, please?
Yeah,
could you please get out of here? Like,
we needed him, but
we really enjoy seeing you. You know?
I mean, yeah, you go from the stadiums that like we grew up playing in high school in to where you get a couple hundred people at your game, you're like, man, the crowd was awesome. Then you get to the epitome of what college football kind of has to offer. It's been a really cool journey. Couldn't be happier to be a part of this Bobcat team. We've been fortunate to be really good since I've been here. So
yeah,
got to keep that
I think
going.
I think it's just been really awesome following your journey the entire way, just kind of through social media and through Facebook and Instagram, and seeing how you went to all these schools. Because I remember when you were at one of those smaller schools, maybe it was Navarro or something like that. I was like, it kind of seemed like you were in the similar situation to you see on like Last Chance U, where you've got these coaches that are just kind of grinding it out, and there's probably not a ton of pay involved or anything, but you're like super dedicated to the game. And then seeing you get like opportunities at Arkansas, and then also being able to come back to Montana State, I've just been like super happy for you the entire way, and glad that it's been working out for you like it has.
Yeah, it's really weird to see what that journey can look like, because you go through that whole list and like, I don't know, I think the world of Coach Vegan, but when you go through that list of all those places that I've been, and I've actually like, I got hired at 2 other spots that I didn't actually go to because something came up in that whole hiring process where it's like, yeah, let's do it. And then like these other things kind of happen. Like I had accepted the job before Montana State called, and it was like it happened quick. But you look at like Coach Vegan's really been at 3 spots, and I've only been coaching I'm in the middle of my 6th year on this right now, and I have he's had. So it's like it's really wild what this coaching kind of path can look like, as far as that, like some people end up being able to be someplace for a long time, and some people end up being a ton of places for every couple of years. They're moving, getting new jobs. It's just kind of the name of the game. But yeah, the ladder
Well, we
can be
definitely hope you
exciting.
get to stay. We definitely hope you get to stay at Montana State for as long as you would like to stay there.
Yeah,
You're just like all of our guys on the team that we don't want to see you enter the transfer portal, and we don't want to see them enter the transfer portal.
no,
You know?
and that's what I think gets what allows this place to be a little bit different, a little special, is like you don't see it as a stepping stone. Like when you get to be a part of this, and I've been to the other places, like especially like a place like Texas, a state like Texas, when there's so much competition to see like, oh, what's this ladder look like, and how far can I climb it? But when you get to Montana State, you really understand what the value of this football team means to not only Montana but the whole nation. And it is Division I football, so it's like when you get to something like this, it's like, man, you're in a special spot. You just want to hold on to that as long as you can. And sometimes it ends up not being your choice, but fortunately we're good right now, so it's not like somebody can force us out. I got coaching ranks right now that are kind of in that mix of, if they're not in a great program, then somebody tells them they don't have a job anymore because they fired their boss or whatever kind of takes place with that, then you're almost starting from scratch. And man, I've been there too, so it's stressful. So very, very fortunate to be here. And I know how special this place is to not only me, but the whole state. And I want to be here as long as I can too.
You mentioned working for Coach Vegan. What's he like to work for, but more specifically learn from?
It's weird because like I've never been around a head coach that's quite like him. And like the thing that I would say is like he's super stable. Like whether things are going great or we got some adversity or whatever that's going on, he's kind of just duck, whatever he's got going on, he doesn't really show it. His leadership kind of follows through all of that stuff, and I really admire. Like, I don't know, if I could be a head coach someday, I hope I can be compared to him, because I think he's doing a great job. And I think it's been really special to be able to work for him, and I'm glad he brought me on to be a part of the staff.
Yeah, no, that's Ben and I always talk about what we call cat culture, and it kind of sounds like maybe he's the guy who brings that in, kind of that attitude that no one person's bigger than the team, and then you kind of see it every game, whether it's Tommy and Sean or like, they're like friends, and, they don't care if one person scores a touchdown. And then you have Brendan Hall, he had some issues with his kicking, but all of a sudden he's the first guy to give a hug to the new kicker as soon as he makes his first extra point. I mean, it's just like this constant line of guys that are just so selfless. And we've just been calling it cat culture, just, that, everybody plays for everybody else on the team. And kind of sounds like maybe that's something that Vegan is really good at.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's definitely how he's been brought up, because like when you watch where he's been and not being able to bounce around or whatever, he really understands the importance of that. And I think the Bobcats had a pretty good grasp of that when he got here, and he's been able to kind of embrace that and increase its ability. And I do think got something to do with our level of football, but we talk about it all the time on how like there isn't some big secret. It's like we are the secret, and it's how we can perform with and for one another, that allows us to be so successful. And it's evident, like you can see how I mean, it's spread all over the place that everybody's having some level of success all the time. It's not like we're just relying on one stable horse to really be able to do what we do. It's been really special to be a part of what like this level of like diverse team feeling is like, because I've been some places where it wasn't like that, and like you're saying, where everybody's out there just to kind of get theirs, and that's not what we have going here. I do think that contributes to success, in both when it's going good and maybe when it's some times of adversity too, where we're able to kind of pull each other out of that. And yeah, it's special for sure. I like listening to you guys kind of talk about that, because I feel it on a pretty regular basis, but obviously I'm ingrained in it, so it's easy for me. But like for the outside world to kind of have a grasp of what that is too, I mean, I think that's just that's showing a job well done by the coaching staff, and a job well done by our players to be able to be that involved and that bought in.
Yeah, I think that there's absolutely no doubt that the general public can see it. I mean, it's fairly obvious that there's no real person bigger than the team or anything like that. But back to that cat culture thing, just kind of the relationship between the players and the coaches and all that, it's got to make it easier to bounce back from adversity and a tough loss like the Montana game.
Yeah.
Is there something specific you guys have done like over this week? I don't know how much you guys are like going off because it's a bye week and everything, but is there something specific that you guys do in order to be able to bounce back and like kind of put that in the past as quickly as possible?
I don't think it's just anything super special. Like, I think that loss comes with a lot of hurt, as it should. Like that, we all know what that game means, and the expectations to be better in those situations are definitely present, by us and by the whole state. And so, I think we really we have a routine, and it's not fair to anybody to really break the routine. To like, if you're gonna do the Rex Ryan thing, like burn the ships or bury the ball or whatever that is, like we all need to have some level of ownership of our performance. And I think that's from the head coach through the whole entire team. Like, we all have an impact on those results. And so I think we really just kind of like stuck together and been able to spend time together, because whatever the outside noise is, and I know you guys probably get plenty of it, because the stance you've taken with this, and which I love it, because I'm as pro Bobcat as there is too. But I know you guys are, what we really had to say is like, turn that off. Like, it's about us. Like, we need to have ownership over a poor performance, but we need to also be able, like, we're not dead. Like, and that's where we're fortunate, because sometimes that game can mean the end of your season if you're not in playoff contention. And boy, am I happy that that's not the case at work. We still do have life. Like, yeah, you feel like you get knocked down, but the opportunity to get back up and go achieve something special still exists. And so really focusing on being able to have some ownership over it and be able to advance positively forward. And obviously we got some big tasks on our way. It's not being in that 2 seed. It'd be awesome because you get the easy street, but
Yeah.
we I think we got a special football team, and that's going to allow us to hopefully make a run here and do something special.
I think that one thing for me specifically is this potential matchup with North Dakota State. I mean, I say potential, but it seems extremely likely.
Yeah, I would agree.
that excites me for what they've done to us in the past. Does that echo around the locker room a little bit? Like, these guys got to remember what happened to us.
Just for reference right now, Eric is currently like nearly foaming at the mouth. I think he's pretty excited about this.
Man, this is the year to give some payback to North Dakota State.
Well, and that's the thing, like how many times have we had that conversation? It's like, man, we're close, but it's like we always get stuck playing over there, or we've got to go to Texas and play them, and it's like, man, if we just had the opportunity to play them at home, and that's what we have now. So I think it's something that we're excited about. Obviously, that Bobcat Bison rivalry is something that's been pretty heated, especially if you look at the last 5 to 10 years. Those are the guys that have had our number, and it's never been on our turf. So it's kind of had that conversation's been old. It's like, man, as soon as we can get them on our place, it's going to go our way, and that's the situation we've got ourselves in. But we got to work our tails off. They're a good football team. They've won a ton of games. They're led very adequately too. So it's going to be something they're expecting to win, just like we are.
It's kind of funny because North Dakota State loses a couple games, and those guys over there in Fargo are calling for the head coach's job.
They're like,
that
get
fast.
him out of here.
Yeah, and
we're
all
like,
it takes.
We're like,
North
that's
Dakota
insane.
State.
We're like, that's absolutely insane. Where you're like perennially, like for a decade, pretty much, you had one of the best, if not the best team in the country. Well, and then you have like 1 year where you bobble up and you lose a few games, and then it's like, okay, get him out of here. Nope, he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah.
They won like 9 out of 11 national championships, and one of those years was COVID.
Yeah,
didn't even have one. So it's like, how
is a coach supposed to deal with that?
Yeah,
like how would you?
Poor guy. I mean, that's got to be tough.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, like, I think that just goes to show you how ruthless the college football fan world really is, and like that it kind of comes with the territory. Like, if you're going to be top dog, you gotta deal with those consequences too. And I know that the people that have those opportunities do embrace that, and they have to take ownership of that too, because expectations are so high. Like, that's something. I don't think you'd trade any of that, whatever stress you have, to be able to be, if they're calling for your job, it is what it is when you know you're good and you know the team that you have. But it'd be better than just be like you look at teams like in the FBS, it's like, hey, if you can somehow get bowl eligible and just win 6 games, like, you'd be a hero. Like, that's all we're striving for. And then when you get to like this kind of level where the expectations are kind of national championship or bust, like, hey, that's a good problem to have. And so, add some stress, but I think it's just gotta be like, hey, you know you're good at that point. It's not like they went 2-10. Like, hey, they're losing some tight games to some good teams. Like, some days, like Toby Keith's got a song about dogs, and every dog's got its day, but some days it just ain't yours. And if you get caught on the wrong day, like, some bad stuff can happen to you, and you drop one, and it doesn't mean the world's all coming to an end. Like, they've obviously done some real stuff over there, so just blow that up and try to start over. Maybe not the move, but
they're going to run into a lot of years if they try and blow it up and get rid of the coaching staff and everything. They're going to run into a streak of years where it's going to be rebuilding and going to be like creating all new recruiting connections and everything, and that's going to take your team for years. That's what I think a lot of the fans don't understand. And I know after this last game, me and Eric were kind of being Twitter warriors for at least a minute because we were just getting pissed off at people. They're like tagging our podcast and all this stuff where they're just dogging like Tommy. Like there's people just dogging Tommy and everything and all this stuff. And we were just like, I don't think you can call yourself a Cat fan anymore if you say anything bad about these guys. Like, I don't think you can call yourself that.
You want to get us on a warpath, you start talking trash about one of our players. That just drives me crazy, especially when he has 100 and some yards of non-garbage time rushing yards. I mean, that's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, and so what I was going to say is, like, you don't have to worry about being a Twitter warrior, and you can tell the players that their backs are safe. Yeah, because Eric and I will take care of it.
That's what those guys appreciate that, and that's the thing that's weird about this day in college football is you got to tell them to stay off Twitter, like you got to tell them to stay off whatever it is, and just keep your nose to it. And I don't know, Tommy's a war daddy, so I don't think whatever anybody's got to say to him, he ain't got any time to listen to that. So, but like to the point that I think you made that was really about the whole coaching thing, it's like you look at Texas A&M, like heck, what do those guys think they're going to get? Like you might not be happy with the results, but that doesn't mean grass is going to be greener just because you're getting a new head coach. Like you watch some of those places now that are in a carousel, like you can't just get a new head coach every 2 years. Like if you got a good one, you might as well kind of stick it out and see what they have. Like if it's time to make a change, that's one thing, but just because you make a change doesn't mean it's going to like everything's just going to be sweet all of a sudden. So I think
there's just as good a chance that it's going to go downwards as it's going to go upwards.
If not more chance it goes backwards, because then you lose a coach, you don't know what players hop in the portal and do all that stuff. Like, I don't know, blow it up just doesn't make sense. And I understand that at some point their programs become where like a change is needed, but man, to be hasty to those decisions, I think you can just really get yourself into some trouble.
For sure.
We going back to the Bobcats here, we talk a lot about those main guys, the Derek Snells, the Sean Chambers, the Tommy Malotts, the Julius Davis, Ty McCullough, Rylan Ort. We talk a lot about those guys all the time. If you had to come up with like kind of an unsung hero, somebody that kind of floats under the radar a bit, but just doesn't get enough love, who if there's a couple of them, who would that be?
So I think this goes into my wheelhouse a little bit, and I've the thing that's weird, and I think we've created such a high standard for this kid that we're probably not really recognizing what he accomplished. But when you look at the season that Brendan Hall has had, and the field goal issues are what it is, but he's a punter and a kickoff guy at heart. And when you look at the production that dude has been able to create, especially in his first season here, he is special. And when you look at like what he comes in as a kickoff guy, like you end up taking it for granted because he just ends up doing it's incredible what he does on a regular basis. And we lead the nation in kickoff attempts just because we're a part of the best offense, and we've only given up eight people have only had to return it, so we're just not covering kicks. When you look at it, and like it's awesome that he was able to get a first team all conference bid, but he leads the entire nation in net punting. Like he's literally the best at his position. I think like he's so good at times that when it's like just maybe he's having an average day or an off day, like I think it's easy to be critical of his position. But man, when you get this season that he's kind of created, and he's done an amazing job. And so he's somebody that I definitely would love to give a shout out to, because his season is special, and I think he's got some more awards that he should be in line for, in my opinion. Obviously a very biased one, but I hope he gets the accolades he deserves, because when you look at the year he's had, it's just a specialist. It's been crazy, but that's kind of my niche too, so I'm always going to give the kickers a shout out.
Shout out Brendan Hall.
To tell you the one that probably doesn't get any love either is like Justice Perkins runs the show, and you look at that guy and it's like, how has he been what he is? But if you really come down to it, when whatever his career is, he's won so many football games. He's touched the ball every single one of those snaps that Tommy's thrown or ran for a touchdown. Every ball that
Yeah.
Derek Snell's got, Perk's been the guy orchestrating it, get to him. And I know he's short levered. He doesn't look like he should be a special player, and like physically he has his issues, but what he brings as a leader and his mental capabilities, I mean, he does a great job for this team. And when you look at his career, for what it is now and what it is through the end, like he's going to be one of the most winning there's ever been. And so it's easy to kind of overlook him. Maybe that's because he's a little sawed off, but when it comes down to the amount of games that he's been a part of winning, man, he's had a really special career. And I think he's got an opportunity to have one of the greatest careers of any Bobcat.
Shout out Justice Perkins, and a local boy too from Bozeman.
Yeah.
It seems like both those guys that you talked about are pretty popular within the team too. Like it's kind of hard for us to tell because we don't interact with these guys very much outside of the DM that Eric got from Ty McCullough this week. But we don't see him a ton. But I noticed when it popped out to me was there was something that happened with Brendan Hall. I think he got like a Player of the Week or something like that, and it was like every single player put it on their story, which social media doesn't matter and matters all at the same time. But I thought it was cool that all these different position groups are like showing love to this guy who is just on the special team. So I was thinking he must be pretty popular in the locker room, or like people must like him.
Yeah. So I think those guys are both extremely popular. I think they both understand like when you're part of it, like you can't overlook those guys because you know what the value that they're bringing right now, whether like it's in the locker room or on the field, like the dude that's snapping the ball every time, like there's some value and there's some personality to those guys too. Brendan's a little soft spoken, but and they're leaders in kind of their own ways, and you hear Perk's talking all the time there. It's a really good locker room that we got kind of put together.
It seems like watching those players lounge interviews and everything, Justice must have gotten some personality from his dad. Because his dad is full of personality and swagger all of the time.
He's the world heavyweight champ in swagger. I'll tell you that much. Like he's a great, and he does a lot for a lot of those guys, and kind of that off the field type of role, and what that is. He creates opportunities for those guys all the time. Man, he's awesome. He really is. His kids are great. Both the two twins are part of it in their own way too, and it's great to have those guys around. I'm just like you guys. The more Montana guys we can have a part of this program, the better.
Absolutely.
I enjoy all of those guys. So,
but we love our stud transfers too.
Yeah. That's kind of the name of the game, and so it's got to be able to create that balance. And I think you watch places be able to struggle with that. Like you bring in some new faces, that doesn't just mean you're going to be good. You got to be able to mesh. You got to be able to become a team, and integrate those new faces into what we got going. And I think how you guys use the word cat culture, like if that's stable and established, when you're a new guy and you get involved, you can really be able to get here and hit the ground running. And that's not always easy. Like, man, transferring in college football this day and age has got to be tough, and it's something that people utilize all the time, and we've shown that we're a good place to land.
I think Montana State just seems like they have a pretty good reputation from stories you hear from different guys that are on the team currently or on past teams, where they know when they come here they're going to be treated well.
Yeah,
by their people, like by the coaching staff, by teammates. It seems like everybody kind of welcomes each other in. So it's nice to hear those stories and know that the program is backing that.
Yeah, and that's what those guys are looking for, right? Like obviously, if everything was sunshine and rainbows, they wouldn't be transferring. And so they're looking for a team, a family, and some places they can be happy. And for whatever reason, wherever they were at before just wasn't working out. And when you bring those guys in, that's what it's got to be, because it's in a way a second shot for them, but we have a responsibility to take care of them too, because they're entrusting us to be their family, and and we got to do our part. So it is good to hear, but like I don't think that's unconsciously happening because those kids are coming from whatever situation they were in, and you got to welcome them and you got to get them integrated and be ready to roll. And you're going to have to rely on them to help you win some football games too. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
So speaking about kind of going back to the locker room stuff a little bit, I just wanted to know two things. Okay. So A, I want to know who is the funniest guy in the locker room. And B, I want to know who is the best dressed person in the locker room.
Gosh, my fashion advice would be probably not the one to take because like trying to think, like sometimes I see some guys wearing some stuff that look expensive, but I don't even know what it is. Yeah.
You're like a nice pair of cinched jeans,
Yeah,
probably
that like
trade
that's
Pickering comes through, and you're like, yeah, it's looking nice.
that's the thing. Like you watch some of those guys, like Holden Sampson. He's our backup center. Like he comes pretty sharp dressed sometimes. Like, and then we got some guys that have their opportunities. The older guys that have jobs and stuff, they come in looking good. I'm trying to think like game day fit, like nobody really overdoes it too much. Like nobody's trying to stand out in those situations. We kind of wear the same stuff, and
it's
yeah.
just a cohesive locker room is what you're saying. There's no Cam Newton, look at me, baby.
No, I don't.
But it seems like that's what you were talking about with Coach Vegan too, is that he shows up and every day is kind of the same day, and that consistency of not changing things, just doing our thing every single day, that like chop wood, carry water kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And it probably goes for the players too.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know if there's, as far as like fashion goes, I don't know if there's anybody that I would directly single out. And maybe I hope I'm not hurting anybody's feelings by not giving them the shout out that they might deserve. But and when
what would you say about the funniest guy?
Gosh, the thing that's tough is like I spend a lot of time with the O-line room, and those guys are all hilarious. So to tell you who, like, in all honesty, if you guys could sit down and like have some kind of conversation with Marcus Weir, I don't know if there's anybody that's made me laugh more. And sometimes you might be laughing at him a little bit, and he has that aspect to him too. But he says some stuff that, man, has got me probably belly rolling the most. So, and I don't know if there's one room that doesn't have one of those guys, and that's part of it. Is everybody's got a little bit of a mixed bag. But
I definitely got to highlight Marcus Weir here on our screen right now, just so that we can try and get that interview at some point.
Yeah,
we would love to have.
He's hilarious.
It's a great segue into this Big Sky All Conference deal right here with Marcus Ware being first team All Conference.
Yeah, dude, special. Man, is he special.
Yeah, it's a list loaded with absolute studs, every single one of them. Yeah. You guys got to be awfully proud about how big that list is.
Yeah, and it's one of the things where it's like you gotta have some ownership over that too, right? Like if you get to be a part of a special team in a special year, like you deserve to be recognized for it. And I think we got a bunch of guys on there that for sure deserving of it, and I think there's some stuff left to come for some of the. Really excited about what those opportunities look like for some of those guys in those spots.
Definitely. I mean, just looking here, first team all conference offense: Derek Snell, Trayton Pickering, Marcus Ware, Rush Reimer, Sean Chambers. That's a fantastic list of people that absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, and you look at like those guys aren't exactly new faces. I know Chambers hasn't been here for forever, but when you look at the production that all those guys are kind of all involved with, it is a special. Those guys kind of know it, and I think that the Bobcat faithful definitely know it. So when they get to kind of get into this position where they can be kind of recognized to that extent, like it's not, by no means can you look at that group or any of the guys that we got on there and say that they're not deserving, or maybe that was a little higher than they expected to be. I mean, we got some special dudes. I'm glad they're getting the recognition that they do deserve.
Yeah, I think this whole list, first team all conference defense, you got Brody and Nolan. All conference special teams, first team Brennan Hall. Second team Tommy Malott on offense, Julius Davis, Omar. Second team all conference defense, Seabass. And honorable mentions Justice Perkins and Rylan Orr. I mean, it's just an extremely deserving list. I don't have a gripe with anything on there. Every single one of those guys earned their spot 100%.
Seems like half of the team is on all conference this year.
Yeah.
Half the team are the best guys in the Big Sky Conference, which is what we expect because of the way we've been talking about this team all year and the way we believe in this team going forward into the playoffs. It just seems like this shows how stacked we truly are.
Yeah, and I think it also, like, the thing that I take away from that list too is it shows you how stacked the Big Sky is, because you look at somebody like Seabass or Omar, like, I mean, those dudes are both absolutely incredible, and it's like they're second team guys. It's not that they didn't have great seasons. It's just like, man, we play in a tough conference, and there's a lot of great players on the other teams. And so when you kind of look at towards the end of the season on what that stuff is, in a lot of ways, it's like, and if you can't call the Big Sky just the biggest power horse in this whole level of football, like, I don't know what you're looking at, because when you look at that list of players from top to bottom, every single name, man, there's some great football players in there. So, and that's just a testament to the conference that we're a part of, and we get to be week in and week out a part of some great football. So,
I think there was an episode a while back, Ben and I talked about just how strong the Big Sky Conference is, kind of like what you just said, where we were even taking like a Northern Colorado, putting them in a different FCS division. They're probably going to win a few games out of there.
Yeah, and that's
but they can't win one in the Big Sky.
No, and there's good football players down, and I know those guys are kind of going to have to they're in a rebuild stage, and that sucks. It's for when it goes, but they're in a good spot and they'll be able to make it work. But yeah, I would say like, you look at what you would consider even the bottom half of the Big Sky are contenders in a lot of these other conferences. So, and it's just kind of the cards you get dealt. But when you look at what the Big Sky is even bringing to this playoff season this year, and in all respective purposes, I think UC Davis deserves to be in the mix too. UC Davis is just definitely good enough to beat some teams that are in above them, and that's just kind of how it shakes out. As they get stuck in a tough conference, you put UC Davis in a few other conferences, they probably got a ring on their finger, and they're in the Big Sky and kind of get snubbed, if you want to say. And so, man, it's some great football that we're able to be a part of and watch every given Saturday.
It did suck to see that UC Davis team in the first four out, because I did feel like they deserved a little bit more love, especially with their late win against Sacramento State. I felt like they had made some significant growth throughout the season, which would have put them in that playoff race, but they were just right outside of it, which kind of sucks for them.
Yeah, and they were in the mix on some of those games that didn't go their way. They're in there tight. I'm glad we didn't have to play UC Davis this year, because they're a good team. So, I definitely think they got a good thing going down there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That seems like another good segue.
Just Marcus with the segues.
Yeah. He's just
you're just going to be a regular guest now. You're going to be the one that guides us.
Fantastic progression into the upcoming this Saturday's slate of games, and we get to start off with Sac State at North Dakota. But honestly, we were all a bit surprised Sac State made it in over UC Davis on that game. Honestly.
Yeah, you'd almost have thought that had some playoff contention going to it. And I know that they look at strength of schedule, and that probably is what it came down to. And Sac State having a FBS win does have probably a pretty good impact on that. So
that's true. Well, what do you think about North Dakota? You think Sac State can pull off an upset here?
It's going to be tough 'cause, like, when you look at the Missouri Valley and that thing, like, though, that's a conference that keeps itself alive just like the Big Sky does. And in typical years, you say it's like there's two top dogs over there between the two state schools, North Dakota and South Dakota. But then you watch the North Dakota and South Dakota and North Dakota State, South Dakota State, and NIU, like those, that conference got tough. And so I think it's going to be who's traveling in that situation?
Sac State goes to North Dakota.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that the home team's going to have an advantage in some aspect throughout all of this first round and really the first two rounds of the playoffs. So I would think, but Sac State was a team that probably, if they can hit the ground where they're getting healthy again, because I know they had kind of a skid of some guys that they were missing that they really needed to have going. So I don't know that offensive line at North Dakota is special, kind of like ours is, and I know how we played against Sac State, so I would think that that O-line at North Dakota's got to wear this one on their shoulders, and if they can be able to move the ball, and we're talking about an O-line that beat NDSU this year, so I think they got some stuff going really well. It's probably going to be the most tightly contested of these first round games, or one of the more tightly contested of the first round games. I guess
Yeah.
If I had to lean, I'd just lean home team just because I know how important that can be.
I think that, and that's the same way we both picked it when we were talking before this. We were thinking it was going to be North Dakota just because of the way we saw North Dakota and South Dakota play against NDSU, let alone South Dakota State. They all played them super strong and definitely gave us reasons to put a lot of respect on North Dakota and South Dakota both.
But I'll tell you what, too, if they're sleeping on Sac State, they're going to get surprised because there's some firepower over there.
That offense can kick whenever it wants to. That offense can chug.
And so if they're healthy and firing on cylinders, that's an opponent you got to take with a whole lot of seriousness. I mean, that was a top 10 matchup when we played them. Like, Sac State's, they're good.
And it was a tight game for like 3 quarters, pretty much.
It wasn't that tight.
I mean, I thought it was a tight game. Eric is so delusional when it comes to these Bobcat games that he's like, it wasn't tight. I was like, I thought it was pretty tight. And then all of a sudden we pulled ahead, and I was like, okay, this is the Bobcats. We're gonna have a 2-score win. It's gonna be nice.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, that's gonna be one to watch for sure, because that is got to be one of the marquee matchups of this first slate of games.
And then this next game, two teams that Ben and I know absolutely nothing about and are picking strictly based off. Well, for me specifically, I think the spider logo looks cooler than North Carolina Central. So I'm going with Richmond.
I think I'm only basing the Richmond base. The only thing that I have going for Richmond is that they beat the Grizzlies and won national championship. I remember that one because me and my dad used to cheer against the Grizzlies every year in the playoffs as they were going along. Like, a lot of these Montana fans, they're like, well, if any team in Montana wins, I'm going to go for them. And me and my dad were just like petty as hell. And we were just going to sit there and be like, we are Richmond Spider fans this weekend.
Yeah. I remember that game too. I think that was, Chase Reynolds grew up just down the road. I think that was his last year when they had that kind of run at it. And I do remember, I had no idea who Richmond was until that game. They had those spiders on their helmet, and then they knocked off the Grizz. So I remember that too. Two teams kind of over on the east side that I would say I don't know a ton about other than looking at some statistics of it. And North Carolina Central is right up there with some of the best offense that FCS has to offer. And Richmond's 8-3, so they're playing some good football too. So to tell you who's home in that one, is that
that's Richmond.
Richmond's home too. So you got to think that's going to mean something. But I know North Carolina Central, they got some firepower as far as just like I've watched them kind of they're hanging around in some of the same offensive statistics that we are as far as just production. And so I know they got some firepower going over there, so it might be a shootout.
This is why we wanted to bring you on here.
Yeah.
We're just going to pick it based on mascots at this point. And you're going to come through here with, well, statistically, they're right up there with the PawdCats.
Yeah, they've done some good
I
stuff
want to
this year.
switch my pick right now.
Yeah, I mean, if we got to.
Hey,
That
that
sounds
home
like a
team's
great
gonna
upset.
matter though. That home team's gonna matter. It really does when you're in this stage of the season. So I don't think you're too far off in what that could be.
Next one, Lafayette in Delaware. And I think a popular upset here is picking Lafayette over
Yeah,
Delaware.
and this is something that the whole Big Sky Conference is paying attention to, right? It's one that has to go into Washington Grizzlies and see what they have to offer. And I was looking at it too. I think Delaware's kind of in one of those conferences that we talk about where it's like, okay, what does that really mean? And we kind of experienced that with William and Mary, thinking they were going to be
Yeah.
a little different last year. And it's like, and it's not that they're a bad team. It's just like the Big Sky's a little bit different when it comes to that. But I think when you look at both of those teams, it's going to be some air attack. And it's I bet that probably comes down to turnovers. Is who, if you're going to be a team that's going to be able to throw the ball a lot, it's going to be who can control it and just have things go their way when they need them to. So I think, at least looking at it, I think Lafayette's had probably the better season, and it'll kind of come down to who's going to be able to control each other's passing attack.
I think that and Delaware just really hasn't shown an ability to put up points.
Yeah, and like they've done some stuff. And I know that their defense is somewhat solid. It's hard to get a grasp of what that is because that conference they're in is potentially not some great football all the time. But I think they have the opportunity to. I mean, we're all in the dance for a reason. So all you got to do is get hot at the right time. Play your best football in December. You hear every team in this mix saying that right now. So
yeah. Next one is Chattanooga going to visit Austin P.
So I don't know if you guys knew this, but Scotty Walden is the head coach of Austin P, and he actually got his first head coaching job at East Texas Baptist, where I was previously.
Oh,
Okay.
So the head coach at Austin P his first job was at ETBU. So some of the staff that he's kind of created are some guys that I have met. So on a personal bias, I think I'm just rooting for those guys just because I've had some kind of relationship with them. And obviously they've had a really good year being able to kind of get things going down there. They won their conference, and they're on track to have a special year. So hopefully they can kind of keep that going. I think part of me is personally rooting for them, so hopefully they can go get it done. I would think that that's probably a even matchup in some aspect because Chattanooga's had a good season as well. So
yeah, I think Austin P is kind of a unanimous choice here.
Well, for me, it's definitely Austin P, but that was because of only one game that I watched because I do all my research obviously, and I watched them play against Furman. It was on one of the mornings when we were just waiting for a Cat game to start, and I didn't have anything else to do that morning, so I was like, I'm just gonna watch as much FCS as I can, and I watched Chattanooga versus Furman, and it was the least impressive game I've seen in a while by both teams, which might mean that they both have good defenses. But for me, it was just like, I talked about the Chattanooga uniforms on here already.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring it up again, but
Yeah.
I cannot cheer for Chattanooga right now.
I'll tell you this much: that Austin P they'll be rolling. That's a guy that's got a lot of charisma, and he'll have those guys fired up. And they got a chance. Like they're in the dance, so they might as well take their shot. And I bet that they're going to show up ready to play.
The next game is Nickel State at Southern Illinois. I feel like this game doesn't. I mean, Southern Illinois is going to steamroll these guys, right?
Yeah, it could be. I know that Southland Conference has gone through such a mess as far as like they've had teams going FBS. Like the Southland used to be a powerhouse, and then you watch that kind of just get dismantled. So to tell you what the best option in the Southland is right now, it's probably not a great one. So I could see that going towards a home team for sure.
Yeah.
That's just, I think Eric just says that because he likes saying Salukis.
Salukis is one
That's
of my
it.
favorite words.
He just likes to say Salukis. I mean, I
Yeah.
think Nicholls State should probably get a little credit just because they actually won their conference. But you are right. They have been going through a lot of changes. Was that the conference that James Madison was in?
No, because James Madison was on the East Coast, but Sam Houston
East
State.
Coast. Sam
okay.
Houston, yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, that would be it. Yeah.
yeah, so
Um,
they've kind of just gone through a bunch of stuff as far as like what the Southland has turned into with those teams down south just moving around like it. I don't know. It's been such a mess these last couple of years. These conference realignment stuff, and I think the Southland's kind of been a casualty of some of that movement.
when really Southern Illinois has had quite this strength of schedule boast, honestly.
Without a doubt there. So I bet they're excited to get some new faces up there and
Yeah.
be able to.
Those guys played some tough teams.
Yeah, for sure.
Next one is Gardner Webb at Mercer. Another game I know absolutely nothing about. Nothing at all.
I'll tell you this much. As far as I know, I think Gardner Webb can run the ball. So anybody who's got a run the damn ball mindset, it is got my vote. So
I couldn't agree more. Let's
Me-
go.
all those guys, they're gonna have as much fun as they want to, but because where they go next is not where they want to be. So
No.
go have fun and enjoy Brookings because it hasn't treated me very good. So good luck.
It's probably going to be like -30, or at least we hope so. I mean, it's the Bulldogs and the Bears. You know, I got a special spot for Bulldogs. In
Hey,
my heart,
I'm completely with you. They got have you guys ever seen Gardner Webb's field?
No.
I think the logo that they have in the field is like almost the biggest in football. Like that Bulldog is like from like 30 to 30 or something. It's absolutely massive.
Well, and let's be honest here, nobody likes Bears or Grizzly Bears or anything
Nah.
like that. So
No, not a
Gardner Webb all the way.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And Drake's North Dakota State. Drake's gonna steamroll these guys, right?
Gosh, that's what that poor Pioneer League. They get a championship ring, but I bet the old Drake Bulldogs were not happy when they saw the Bison was where they had to go.
Oh, they had to have like the worst selection Sunday.
Yeah.
Anybody, you know, that's a tough draw to make.
Yeah, they had a tough year in the Missouri Valley with the non-conference schedule that they had already, and to have to come back up here when it's actually going to be cold, I bet they're not. I guess it's inside, so they'll be okay. But hey,
But that field is that turf that they have there is terrible to get tackled on.
yeah,
I know I've heard from multiple people that it's like getting tackled on cement. So it even though it's inside, it still is not going to feel good.
But
yeah,
like we talked earlier, I think we can all say like, yeah, we're going to root for Drake because I think they're clearly the lesser opponent in that thing. But I'd be amiss. Like I want NDSU. There's some aspect to what that rivalry's been, and we get an opportunity to have them at home, and that's a game I want to be a part of. So
yeah, I couldn't agree more with that statement. I know my father-in-law specifically has been saying I want payback on NDSU,
Yeah,
and now it's time to walk the walk here. You know, we've talked it. It's time to walk it.
I'll tell you, from being in the room on Selection Sunday, that's how the Bobcats felt too.
That's good.
That's a team that we want to be able to. Whatever you talk about, or whatever you want to call it. It's a matchup that we know is very important, and it's going to be a challenge. There's no doubt about that. So excited to see how that goes and be able to get that one going next
We
year.
might have to start looking into tickets right now because I know that is the only Saturday we have for the rest of the season where I don't have to coach a basketball game.
Yeah.
So if there was any game we were going to go to, I think that would be the one for us to make, and it would be glorious to be there in the stadium with everybody.
Cats Pod live on location, huh?
Yeah, we might have to find some location to go record at.
Yeah,
But it'd be perfect.
We'll kick everyone out of the box and then they'll lock the door.
Oh,
Yeah.
we might be recording from above the field in the box,
Yeah.
like we're big wigs.
Yeah. Next one is, oh man,
Duquesne versus Youngstown State.
I feel like Youngstown State's had a pretty decent season, really.
Yeah, I think that's some guys that probably got in there and they're really, really excited about what that opportunity is. But I'd be lying to you if I said I was very familiar with that with either of those two programs. So going off the record and going off of where they're at regional in their conferences, they're probably excited to have a pretty good matchup.
Yeah.
Night game,
Yeah,
you got to think hometown at night. It's probably the way I would lean.
Yeah.
Yeah, us too. No, that's going to be a fun Saturday to see kind of what plays out
And that's what we do it
who
for,
the
right?
next round matchups. Yeah.
Playoff
And thank
football.
you to
That's what it's all
ESPN
about.
Plus for letting us watch all these games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the past, you would have to get a local package from all these different areas to be able to watch it. But now that it's all on ESPN Plus, we're like, well, we can watch teams from all over the country.
Yeah, and that's where there's some beauty in what ESPN Plus has brought. I think the quality of FCS football is just increasing so much year by year to where the product that, like, you can say we're the little brother to FBS, it is what it is, but there's some great football, man. And so, and I think we're starting to prove that, especially out of the Big Sky, because there's been multiple Big Sky FBS upsets over the last couple seasons, and um, it's just kind of putting it all on the map. And I think we got a really good thing going, and excited to be a part of the playoffs, and not just have to watch. We get an opportunity to play and hopefully go make some noise and make a big run to get back down to Frisco and see what can happen.
I mean, I might be getting a little putting the cart before the horse, and I know you got to focus on just what the next week game is. But how sweet would the semifinal game be if we get to match up with the Grizzlies again, and hopefully have a road to redemption paved all the way to Frisco?
Well, let's just preface this song with Taylor Swift, "Bad Blood."
Yeah. Oh my God. Eric,
Yeah.
did you
We're
just
channeling
give me
our
a Taylor Swift?
We're
No,
channeling
I'm
our
about to
inner
walk
Travis
out right
Kelce.
now.
That's
We
what
got bad blood, baby.
I think that's a good way to put it. There's a lot of Bobcats that don't have a great taste in their mouth about what happened on Saturday. So an opportunity to hopefully cleanse that is something that I think we'd be excited for. If it's fortunate enough to work out that way, I think it's never happened before to have two brawls in the same year. So obviously, it means an incredible amount when it's the third Saturday in November. We all know what that game means, and this year was really, really special. Probably the most impactful one that there's ever been, with so much being on the line. And then to say we get to do it twice, and the second time's to go to the national championship. I mean, that's call 30 for 30, because that's a special season when that stuff's going on.
Yeah.
So
Yep. I can't even imagine how many people would tune in to watch that game, let alone try and be there. I mean, it would break probably some FCS records for television.
Every record everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not biased at all. But.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to be a part of, and I guess we'll see. Happy that our story still has some blank page left, and we get an opportunity to write it.
Oh my God, were you trying to do another Taylor Swift reference there?
Me?
Yeah.
No. What do you got there?
No, it's blank space.
Is that? Gosh, I should
blank
probably.
Space is another one. You said blank page, so it was pretty close. But I was like, "What are you trying to do? You trying to bring this home?"
Well, hey, I think she's proven pretty effective. Maybe we need to get her in town cheering for the Bobcats, because she's having an effect on the Chiefs. So
we've got a spot in the box. I guarantee we can get Taylor Swift a ticket.
Oh yeah, I mean, if Taylor Swift comes to Montana State University, she can have my ticket to the box.
There you go.
Eric and I will just hang out in the beer garden the entire game. Like
I'll be at Specs. Find me when it's done.
Shout out, get the Yellowstone Club on it. Maybe we can make something happen.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there unless you had any other questions for Marcus.
Man, I think I've jawed your ear off, haven't I?
No, dude, this was fun, guys. I'm glad to be a part of it. I'd not been a part of one of these things before, and I've been tuning into you guys throughout the season, and glad to be able to be a part of it. You guys are doing a good job, so thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, it was a pleasure, man. We had a. I know I'm speaking for the both of us here when I say this was a blast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, let's get this live on location one going. I'll hang out with you guys. So.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll be able to catch you next weekend after the game if we can make it down there.
Yeah, we can at least say what's up. If it goes our way, I'm sure we'll all be in a pretty good mood. So.
Oh yeah, that's an understatement, buddy.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, thank you to all the CatsPod fans. Thanks for all the PawdCats out there. Big thank you to you, Marcus, for being willing to come on here with us. We really appreciate it, and we hope to get to talk to you a lot more going into the future. Please rate us 5 stars on wherever you're listening to this at. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and make sure that you give us as much engagement and questions as you can come up with. Even stupid questions. We will answer the silliest of questions. Yes. We are a couple silly boys, so we will answer all those questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you on Saturday.
Adios.